Tonight we host our second monthly Jayu Speaks series, which provides a very important platform for artists such as authors and filmmakers, as well as individuals who have experienced human rights abuses to share their stories. This evening is generously co-presented with our friends, our presenting partners, Humber College, as well as the Center for Social Innovation and the Real Asian International Film Festival. This is part of a larger program that we are going to start doing monthly, but we're also going to be incorporating this at our festival each day of the festival. So December 5th, 6th, and 7th, each day from 4 to 5 o'clock, we'll be having a different Jayu Speak series, and it's only $5. So I hope to see all of you guys there. We are proud tonight to go back to our roots and focus the evening on North Korea, a place where hundreds of thousands of people literally right now are sitting inside of concentration camps, a place where rights and freedoms essentially do not exist, and unfortunately a place where suffering is part of the daily norm. Tonight we welcome to the stage Lucia Jang from North Korea. She has been in and out of prison a handful of times. She has been human trafficked, and she's nearly starved to death. She's incredibly courageous and incredibly inspiring, and she's here tonight to share with you guys about her life, but also to have a conversation with you guys. She's the subject and the co-author of Stars Between the Sun and the Moon, a book which is co-written by Susan McClelland, and that book is on sale here this evening. Before we welcome her to the stage, please help me in introducing our guest moderator for the evening. Jack Kim is the founder and former executive director of Convoys, the largest organization in Canada advocating on behalf of North Korean human rights and refugees. Jack has frequently been called upon to comment on Korean issues and has appeared as a commentator in such media as CTV News, Global TV, CBC Radio, Christian Science Monitor, and the National Post. He's a brilliant man and a really good friend of mine. Please help me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Jack Kim.
Hi everyone. I'm not brilliant. Thanks, Vlad. It's a very kind introduction. I don't want to speak too much about myself because there's someone who's much more interesting than me who's about to come to the stage. But I just want, the only thing I want to reiterate here is that the story that you're about to hear is actually not uncommon. It's one that kind of reverberates throughout modern North Korean history since the 1990s. It starts with the famine, but you'll see a lot of these clips. And the thing I want to press upon everyone is that this is not an extraordinary story. It's about an extraordinary person, but the story itself is not extraordinary at all. It's a normal North Korean story. But that being said, without further ado, I want to introduce everyone here. So maybe I'll introduce our interpreter first, Suyeon Nam, who I know from Old Hanwoi stage. She's a lawyer as well, but she'll be interpreting for tonight, but she was also the translator for the book. So Suyeon Nam first.
Hello, my name is Lucia. Thank you so much for coming this evening. I am a mother of 2 children, and I am a North Korean woman. I hope I can share with you a little bit about my country, North Korea, and about my journey from there to find the freedom for myself and my son. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this evening.
We saw Kim Il-sung. Can you explain more what he meant to you?
먼저 드리고 싶은 질문은요. 김일성을 병원에서 보는데요. 김일성이 어떤 정치인이었는지에 대해서 좀 설명해 주실 수 있을까요?
저희한테 김일성은 신 같은 존재라고 생각했습니다. 그때까지는 하는데요. 신은 죽지 않는다. 이런 걸 많이 교육을 받았기 때문에 우리는 신이라고 생각했어요.
We were taught that Kim Il-sung was like a godlike figure, and like a god, he wasn't supposed to die, and that's the belief that we were fed on.
Okay. And so, like, what was it like growing up in North Korea, maybe before the famine hit?
10년을 심해는 심기 전에는 안에서 자라는 것이었죠.
그래도 그때는 굶어 죽을 일은 없고 정부에서 주는 배급으로 먹고는 살았어요. 제 날짜에 맞춰가면서 먹었기 때문에 그때는 별 불만이 없이 괜찮게 살았습니다.
Up until the famine, rations were pretty regular, so we didn't have much to complain because with regularity we had enough food to eat.
And so this famine hits, and from the clip, it says almost 1 million people died from the famine. I mean, really, was it that bad? Like, how did you survive that?
여기 보여진 영상에서 보면은 한 100만 명 정도의 사람이 심형만 때문에 굶어서 죽었다고 하는데요. 도대체 어떤 식으로 해서 그렇게 많은 사람이 죽게 된 겁니까? 정말 그렇게 나빴습니까?
처음에는 정부에서 한 달, 두 달 배급이 밀려질 때는 다음에 또 줄 줄 알고 많이 기다렸거든요. 그런데 그게 오랫동안 정부에서 쌀을 주지 않으니까 처음에는 정부에서 주기를 기다리면서 참고 하던 게 마지막에는 아마 심양난 때문에 사람들이 많이 죽었습니다. 이거는
So at first, when the rations were not given out anymore regularly, people just waited, thinking that they would resume normally. But after so much time had passed and rations were still not being given out, then people realized that there was a real food crisis, and then people started to die.
처음에 1명, 2명 죽었을 때는 풀이라도 뜯어먹으면 살 수 있다고 생각했고 또 많이 움직인다는 자체는 풀을 뜯던 정부의 농장밭에서 혼자서라도 먹으면서 살 수 있다고 생각했는데 그것도 정부에서 막고 총을 낸 군인들이 농장밭을 지키고 있었기 때문에 먹고 죽느냐 아니면 총에 맞아 죽느냐 그런 갈림길에도 있었댔어요. 그러니까 사람들이 많이 실망하고 차라리 그냥 맥을 놓고 죽은 사람들이 많고 그렇습니다.
So when 1 or 2 people were dying, when not that many people were dying, people were still hopeful that they could survive. They were pretty confident still that we could survive, even if that meant going out and getting our own food, such as just digging up grass, or going and stealing food from the government-run farms. But even that was not, we were not free to do that either because the farms were guarded by soldiers carrying guns and people would be shot to death attempting to steal food. So then we were faced with the choice between risking death while attempting to steal food or dying from starvation.
And so, where does China fit into all this then?
중국은 어떤 역할을 하게 되죠?
처음에는 중국에 가면 그래도 밥을 먹고 산다. 한 끼라도 밥을 얻어먹고 넘어올 수 있다. 이 생각을 하고 모두 도망강을 건너서 갔거든요. 실제로 중국에 가면 우리는 그 중국에 있는 개나 돼지보다도 못했어요. 넘어가니까 쌀밥을 강아지를 주는데 우리는 저 밥을 위해서 도망강을 건너서 왔는데 여기서는 개한테 그 밥을 주더라고요. 그러니까 얼마나 억울하겠어요 우리가. 그러다 보니까 사람들이 그거 먹고 중국에는 우리보다 먹을 것이 많다 이걸 생각하고 한 사람씩 두 사람씩 중국을 넘어가기 시작했습니다.
So China meant food, even if it was just one meal. So then people started to cross Tumen River, which borders North Korea and China. And the reality that we found was shocking because we realized that our fate was worse off than those of dogs or other animals in China. I was so shocked when I went into China and saw that the rice, the bowl of rice that I had risked my life crossing the river was being given out to a dog. And this is an earlier point that I didn't translate, but with this famine, when people realized the extent of the famine, we realized that there was such great disappointment about the government as well.
Did you know that like 1 million people died during this famine? Like, did you know while you were inside North Korea?
북한에 계신 동안에 한 100만 명이나 되는 넘어가는 사람이 이 식량을 때문에 죽었다는 걸 아셨습니까?
그때는 길 가다가도 사람이 죽어서 옆에 있는 거 보고도 그냥 죽었구나. 맨 시체가 왔다 갔다 했어요. 그러니까 대신 또 시체를 치우는 시체 처리소까지 안전부에서 나와서 그걸 처리해주고 했거든요. 정말 그때는 돌아놓으면 시체였어요.
I didn't know the exact number, but I knew that seeing dead bodies was a daily reality for us. It was not uncommon to just run into corpse while walking down the road. And there was even a special team sent out by the security bureau to get rid of the corpse.
So you go to China to escape death and hunger. What does your image of what China, or what you've heard, was it true? Did they give you food? Was there plenty in China when you got there?
중국에 대해서 거기가 음식이 있다고 들어서 가셨는데 실제로 거기 가서 가보니까는 들은 대로 정말 그렇게 풍요로웠습니까 중국은?
정말 그랬습니다. 쌀밥은 기본이고 거기에 우리가 좋아하는 김치도 있고 된장, 고추장도 있고 그 다음에 돼지고기도 있고 그렇게 먹고 싶은 달걀도 많고 그랬거든요.
Yes, it really was true. There was so much, plenty of food. A bowl of rice was just to begin with, but they also had kimchi and soybean paste and pepper paste that we loved, and pork, and most importantly, eggs that I had really wanted to eat so much. So it was really true.
But despite all that, you come back to North Korea. Why?
그런데도 불구하고 북한을 다시 돌아오신 이유는 뭐였습니까?
내 부모도 있고 형제들이 있기 때문에 그때까지만 해도 중국에서 살겠다는 생각은 안 하고 먹을 것을 얻어가지고 다시 북한에 가서 내 부모 형제들한테 그래도 단 얼마라도 주고 싶어가지고 다시 건너고 그랬습니다.
Because my family was still in North Korea, my parents and my siblings. And even if it was just a little bit of food, I wanted to bring back the food to my family to share with them. That's why I came back.
And did you go back to China again?
그 다음에 중국을 다시 돌아가셨습니까?
몇 번 넘어갔다 왔다 하다가 국경 경비대에 잡혔거든요. 그런데 제가 배고파서 건너서 먹을 걸 갖고 왔는데 그거 먹을 것도 경비대가 다 빼앗더라고요. 그러니까 저는 반감이 생겼어요. 내가 배고파서 먹을 걸 가지고 내 고향으로 다시 돌아왔는데 너희들이 내가 반역자를 치고 가고 막 때리고 좁은 칼에다 놓고 하니까 반감이 생겨가지고 다시 중국으로 가야 되겠다고 생각했어요.
Yes, I made several trips to China, and one of those trips I was captured, and I was treated like a criminal by the government, and I was so angry because I was only bringing food back into the country for my family, but now I was being treated like a traitor and being beaten and confined in a small space. And during this experience, I resolved to leave North Korea and go back to China.
And so the final question I have before we go into the next set of clips is, so did you go back to China, and what did you end up doing there?
마지막 질문을 드리는데요. 중국으로 가셔서 어떤 일을 하셨습니까?
처음에는 중국에 넘어갔을 때 우리가 아무런 중국말도 모르고 하기 때문에 팔려가 뺐어요. 중국 돈 5,000원에 팔려서 저 먼 산골로 중국 청각한테 팔려갔는데 도저히 제가 못 살겠더라고요. 거기에서 그래서 다시 거기서 도망쳐서 북한하고 인접인 거기로 다시 나와서 내가 남의 집에 농사를 지으면서 그 농사 지은 품삯이라도 받아가지고 내 부모 형제들을 살리고 싶어가지고 농사일을 했습니다.
So, because I didn't speak Mandarin, I fell prey to a trafficking scheme, and I was sold to a Chinese bachelor in a remote rural area in China. I couldn't stand that experience. I ended up running away and returning to the border area in China, closer to North Korea again. And there I stayed at a farm and worked as a farmhand.
I have to, first of all, I forgot to do this. So thank you for sharing your memories with us. I can't imagine how painful it must be to bring this up every time you have to do this. So I have to admire your courage at being able to come into public with this.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
But since we're here, and if you like to take a break at any time, please let me know. So we're now, you're in China and you're arrested. So when you're brought back to North Korea, what happened?
제가 아이를 임신해가지고 복송되었던 당시는 그 전에 제가 복송됐을 때도 임산부들이 강제학대 당하는 걸 봤거든요. 겨울에 애들 강제학대 시키고 추운 겨울에 산후조리도 못하고 강제노동을 하는데 그 여자애들이 막 힘들게 고생하고 울면서 하는 걸 제가 봤기 때문에 이번에 나는 임신돼서 나가면 꼭 그렇게 되겠구나 하는 생각이 얼마나 불안했는지 몰라서 얘는 무조건 죽어야 되겠구나 생각했거든요.
This time when I was captured, I was pregnant. During my previous detention, I had seen other pregnant girls who had to abort their pregnancy forcibly. And I remembered it was winter time. They had to go through an abortion, forced abortion, and they weren't even given time for recovery and subjected to forced labor. So when I was captured this time, I realized that my baby would also have to be aborted, and the baby and I would experience the same fate as those that I had seen before. So I was extremely anxious and scared.
And
그런 불안한 마음을 가지고 북한에 잡혀 나갔는데 다행히도 그때 누군가가 얘기하는 게 유엔에서 북한에 압력을 가해가지고 노약자 임산부들은 좀 살려주라 이런 조치가 취했기 때문에 어쩌보면 좀 그럴 행운이 있을 수 있다 이렇게까지 얘기를 했거든요. 그래도 불안한 마음을 떨칠 수가 그때 없었어요.
At some point, I had heard that there was a kind of an effort for amnesty by the United Nations for pregnant women and older people and children, and that there might be some hope for my baby. But even with that kind of information, I was still under so much anxiety.
it boggles our mind, forced abortions. Why do they do this?
중국 조선족들은 북한에서 중국 조선족 아이들은 북한에서 살 수가 없다. 그렇게 하고 너희들이 합법적으로 중국에 들어간 것도 아니고 불법으로 도항을 해서 들어갔기 때문에 임신돼서 나오는 아이들은 우리는 받아 못 준다. 아마 몸을 팔고 이랬기 때문에 그건 안 된다. 이렇게 무조건 강제납태를 시켰어요.
The reasons were that children from an ethnic North Korean in China were not allowed in North Korea. And these children were conceived from a union where the woman had to sell their body, and therefore this pregnancy could not be acknowledged by the government in North Korea.
생명에 대해서는 개의치 않았어요, 북한에서. 그렇기 때문에 그런 건 공공연한 살인으로 크게 죄책감을 가지지 않았거든요, 북한 정부에서는.
There was no respect for life in North Korea, and even though this was de facto murder, there was no shame or any concern on the part of the North Korean government.
So, how many months pregnant were you?
그 당시에 몇 개월이셨습니까?
제가 임신 8개월이 됐어요. 8개월에 잡혀나갔는데 제가 너무 어떻게 하나 여행을 나가가지고 그때 8개월이라는 걸 9개월이라고 한 달 앞서서 9개월이라고 거짓말을 했거든요. (9개월이라고) 거짓말을 하고 잡혀나가는 기간이 한 달 기간이니까 거의 10개월이 가깝다고 생각했습니다. 병원에 가서 진단을 해보더니 당장 이제는 나을 것 같다. 병원에서도 이렇게 진단을 해주니 안전원은 이민 반장하고 산부인과 선생하고 밤낮으로 지켜서 애가 낳나 안 낳나 지켜보라 했거든요.
I was actually 8 months pregnant at the time I was repatriated, but I lied to the authorities that I was 9 months pregnant instead. My plan worked because the whole process of getting me back into North Korea and going through investigation took about a month, and so then I was expected to give birth anytime soon. So that meant I was shown to a doctor, and the doctor said that I was about to give birth to my baby anytime. So then I was actually allowed outside of prison, and although I was being watched every day by the village monitor and the doctor, so that they could catch me once the baby was born.
And so, at what point in time do you think I need to leave this country?
어느 시점에서 이제 이 나라를 먼저 떠나야 되겠다 이 생각이 먼저 하셨습니다.
제가 그 수용소에 갇혀 있을 때 정말 말을 할 수가 없었어요. 우리가 배고파서 중국으로 갔는데 이 사람들은 정부에서는 우리를 반역자 취급을 하는 거예요. 정부를 배반하고 너는 중국에 갔다 이렇기 때문에 너희는 죽어야 마땅하다. 그렇게 얘기하니까 우리는 배고파서 간 거지 나라를 배반해서 간 건 아닌데 너희들 반역자들은 무조건 강간 노동을 해가지고 이게 신체가 완전히 망가져가지고 죽어도 좋다 이렇게 우리를 인간으로 취급을 안 하더라고요. 그러니까 야 여기서는 못 살겠구나. 아무리 내 조국이고 내 부모가 있다 해도 못 견디겠다. 다시 중국으로 가자. 그렇게 된 거예요.
The realization really set in sometime during my time in prison. We had been forced to leave the country because of hunger, and it's not that we had betrayed the country, but we're being treated as criminals and traitors, and they didn't even care what would happen to us. They weren't treating us as humans. I was so angry, and I realized that even though this is my country where my family lives, I must leave this place.
제가 여기에 뭐 좀 갖고 왔거든요. 우리 아이를 데리고 그 강을 건널 때 입혀왔던 옷하고 포대기하고 아이를 강 건널 때 넣었던 비닐봉지하고 같이 가지고 왔거든요. 좀 기적이라고 보면 좀 지금에 보면 많이 창피한데 보여드려도 괜찮을까요?
I brought some things to share with you, to show you tonight. What I brought is the bag that I carried my baby in when I escaped North Korea the last time with my son, and the clothes that he was wearing at the time, and his diaper. So I'm a little embarrassed to share things like my baby's diaper, but it has some meaning to me. Would you be interested in seeing them at all?
Yes.
So maybe you can describe as we open it the box. How did you escape? We saw the pictures, the animation, but can you by showing us what you brought, can you kind of tell us how you use these everyday items?
네, 그러면 이경 물품 가지는 제 비디오에서 나오긴 했었는데 여기가 보여주시면서 어떤 과정, 어떤 식으로 나오시는지 보여주실 수 있으실까요? 네.
예.
그럼 제가 이거 들고
이건 기적이에요.
So this is the diaper.
베이비 기저귀가 없어가지고 그냥 천으로 이렇게 만들어가지고 이렇게 해서 애기 기저귀를 이렇게 채웠거든요.
There was no real diaper, so this is just a piece of cloth that I wrapped around with a plastic.
금방 났을 때 입힌 옷이
And this is my baby's clothes that he was clothed in when he was just born.
도망강을 건널 때 추워할까봐 애를 겉옷을 한 번 더 입혀가지고
And when we were about to cross the river, I was afraid that the baby might get cold. So these are the clothes that I had prepared for some extra warmth for my baby.
제가 이 옷을 보여주면서 힘든 거는 애가 금방 났을 때 이런 옷도 없어가지고 4일 동안은 이런 천이 그냥 쌓여 있었거든요.
At first, my baby didn't even have proper clothes like this. So for about the first 4 days of his life, he was just wrapped up in a piece of cloth.
이웃이 이 옷을 자기 애기 입던 옷이라고 돌려주는 거 제가 받아서 입혀가지고 강을 건너데 가고.
These pieces of clothes were donated to us by a neighbor, and that's what I ended up clothing my son in when we were crossing the river.
이거는 그때 당시 애를 가난하게를 이렇게 업어서 어깨까지 하고 그렇게 하고 제가 먹고 왔거든요.
So I put my baby on my back, and this is the plastic bag that I covered him with.
이 매듭은 저희 친정 아버지가 도망강을 건널 때 애가 물에 들어가면 안 된다고 일일이 다 물 새는가 안 새는가 보고 요걸 이렇게 꽁꽁 동재가지고 이렇게 한 거거든요.
And this was prepared actually by my father, who is the baby's grandfather. This is a plastic bag, as you can see, and at one corner it's tied up like this. And my father actually tested out to make sure that this bag was waterproof, so that the baby wouldn't get wet.
제 아버지가 남겨준 유물이라고까지도 할 수 있어요.
I could even say that this is because my father's now dead. This is something that he left behind for us.
제가 애를 어떻게 업었냐면요.
So I'll show you how I carry the baby on my back.
여기까지 이렇게 하고
So up his shoulders, I had covered him with this bag.
이게 포대기예요.
How to explain it?
So Bjorn, baby Bjorn.
Yeah, baby Bjorn.
제가 이렇게 해가지고 업고 이렇게 업은 다음에
I think we possibly the cushion's a little fatter than the baby was.
이렇게 업고 물이 여기까지 오는데
So
쌀을
this is how I carried him. The water was up to here.
이렇게까지 업고 물을 건넜거든요. 그러니까 애 다리 요 물 여기까지 이렇게 됐는데
So the water, because the water was up to about my waist here, the baby's feet were just about touching the water.
다행히 애 발이 물에 약간 적시니까 이렇게 하는 것 같아요.
So when his feet touched the water, because of the coldness, I felt him startle.
오랜만에 또 먹으니까 마음이 이상하네요.
As I'm trying to reenact that night, I'm feeling a lot of mixed emotions.
It's okay, take your time. But thank you so much for showing us some of the most treasured possessions that you have.
Thank you.
The only question I have is that for us it seems miraculous that a woman can escape North Korea with a baby on her back. And I mean, we're all happy that this miracle happened, but my question is, being a father of 2 young children, the baby didn't cry?
그거 참 신기한 거는 진짜 애가 안 울었어요. 도망을 건너기 전에 비닐봉지에 싸서 업고 그 산을 내려서 물이 들어서 가지고 강을 건너서까지도 안 오더라고요. 그날에는 툭은 다리 떴거든요. 그런데 우리가 강을 건너기 들어서자고 보니까 다리 구름이 싹 들어가서 지금 사람이 새까맣게 되더라고요. 그때는 뭐 딴짓 없이 빨리 저 구름이 들어갔으니까 빨리 들어가자. 그래서 막 강을 건너서 한 500m 정도를 갔을까. 갑자기 애가 헛소리 오는 거예요.
It is really amazing. The baby never did cry. I had to travel through a mountain and cross this river, but during that whole trip, the baby didn't cry once. Actually, another miracle happened, which is that it was actually a full moon that night, but just when we were about to cross the river, clouds just appeared out of nowhere and covered up the moon, so then it became pitch dark. So we were able to cross the river undetected by anyone. And a third miraculous thing is that after I had walked about 500 meters since crossing the river, then the baby just burst into cries. He started wailing, but before that, he didn't cry.
지금도 저는 그게 신기할 뿐이거든요.
To this day, I can't believe any of that.
What did you feel?
한국에 도착해 오니까 별수는 따뜻하더라고요. 그때 그리고 그렇게도 가보고 싶었고 교과서에서 그냥 좀 따뜻하다는 말을 많이 들었는데 실제로 한국에 오니까 따뜻하구나 생각했어요.
The first impression was that it was warm. The temperature was warm. I had learned from textbooks that South Korea was warmer, and it really was true. It was warm.
비행기에서 내리는데 오시느라고 수고하셨습니다. 이렇게까지 얘기하시는데 그때는 내가 살기 위해서 왔는데 이 사람들 왜 오시느라고 수고하셨습니다. 이렇게 얘기를 하냐고 조금 그렇게 생각이 됐어요.
So when I arrived at the airport, I was welcomed. They said welcome and thank you for going through this difficult journey. I didn't understand why I was being welcomed with such words, but I was.
Okay. So the other question I have is just from these clips, and I think we're running a little short of time, so I'm abbreviating this a little. Is you've been outside of North Korea for some time. I mean, do you have contact or do you know about what's going on inside the country, and what has changed since you've left?
문화에 대해서도 북한 사람들이 많이 접촉을 하고 휴대폰도 가지고 있고 우리가 원래 전화도 할 수 있고 북한 소식에 대해서 알 수도 있고 많이 변화됐어요. 그게 다 한국에 온 사람들이 북한에 돈도 보내주고 그리고 또 이 TV 이런 영화 같은 것도 넘어가고 한국 사람들, 북한 사람들이 많이 한국에 대해서 많이 알고 있어요.
There's been quite a bit of change. There's quite a bit of contact with outside culture. Now things like cell phones and computers are being smuggled, and it's possible to make inquiries about your family and about news inside the country. And it's possible to send money from South Korea. So those people who have escaped to South Korea are able to send things like money and money back home. And also a lot of South Korean movies are being smuggled in. So people in North Korea are quite aware of South Korean popular culture.
누군가는 한국에서 택배를 보냈는데 그게 고스란히 북한으로까지 넘어갔거든요. 중국에 보내니까 중국에서 다시 그 택배 박스를 그대로 메고 북한에다 넘겨줬다 하더라고요. 그러니까 그 사람들이 한국의 물건도 좋다는 걸 인식하고 북한에서는 한국을 아랫동네라고 얘기하거든요. 북한은 윗동네라고 하면 아랫동네 물건이 없나 이렇게까지 하고 있어요.
So I even heard that it was someone was able to send a box through a shipping service to China, and then the same box was used to send the parcel into North Korea. It's very well known that products made and sold in South Korea are really high quality, and back home in North Korea, people call South Korea lower village and North Korea's upper village, and everybody knows that the lower village products are good and people ask about them.
Okay, we'll see the last set of clips now. And,
As for Lucia Jang,
고향 너무 알려지었죠. 저희들한테는 너무 좋거든요. 천국이라고 해도 저희들은 과언이 아니에요.
How do I even say this? It's like heaven for us. It's such a great place for me and my children. It's really no exaggeration to call this place a paradise for us.
well, we are very honored to have you here as our guest. Not so shameless plug, but Lucia is an author of a book, and so do we have any here?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are copies of the book available today for sale. I believe if you ask nicely, they can be autographed as well. The story you've heard is just the tip of the iceberg of her story. She actually had to go through the imprisonment, repatriation process 4 times. So she was imprisoned 4 times by the North Korean authorities, and there is a whole part about China that we didn't even have time to go through. I strongly recommend that if you found this story intriguing, tragic, sad, inspiring, please go ahead and take a look at the book and buy one today. I think that's it from us. I think there's a Q&A. So if you have any questions for Lucia right now, Lucia, I think, is happy to translate. Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Are you worried about what will happen to your siblings or your family back in North Korea now that you're being so outspoken about this issue?
걱정이 돼요. 걱정이 되지만 그래도 책을 넣으면서 북한에서도 이렇게 사람 사는 것도 있었고 또 살기 위한 생존을 했고 반반이에요.
Yes, I am worried. I have mixed feelings. On the one hand, I am worried about my family. On the other hand, through this book, I want to be able to tell the story of the people in North Korea, the fact that there are ordinary people living in North Korea, and what kinds of trials that people there go through to survive.
Any other questions? Yep, right there.
First of all, thank you so much again. But I was just wondering, when you left North Korea for the final time, did you inform any of your family or friends? Did anyone know you were leaving, or was it totally in secret?
떠날 때 저희 엄마가 마지막으로 밝아졌어요. 제가 아버지한테도 얘기 못하고 동생들한테도 얘기 못하고 그냥 저희 어머니가 마지막으로 제가 발해줄 때 엄마한테 한 얘기가 있어요. 엄마 5년만 기다려줘. 내가 중국에 들어간 다음에 수단과 방법을 다 해서라도 부모들을 도와줄 테니까 조금만 기다려달라고. 이 기약이 없었어요. 저는 그때는 그냥 부모한테 떠날 때 내가 내 걱정은 하지 말고 그런 의미에서 그냥 좋게 얘기를 하고 떠났거든요.
My mother was the last person to see me off. I couldn't tell my father that I was leaving, and I couldn't tell my siblings either. just before I left, I told my mom, Mom, just wait 5 years. When I go to China, I'll do whatever it takes to come back and help you guys. But I knew that it was a promise that I wouldn't be able to keep. But I said it to comfort her.
그 말을 하고 떠났는데 부모님들은 2년 후에 다 두 분 다 돌아가셨거든요. 저희 아버지는 쌀밥 한 그릇 배불리고 소원이었겠다는 유언을 남기고 돌아가셨어요.
But 2 years after I left North Korea for the final time, both my parents passed away. I heard that my father's last words were, if I could eat a bowl of rice, I could die.
I think I'll just close it off right now. But as I said at the beginning, Lucia Jang is an extraordinary person. I think there's no doubt about some of the things that we've heard today. Unfortunately, the story that she tells about North Korea is not an extraordinary story. It's one that happens every day, still happening right now, and that's the reason why we're here at Jayu, so that we're able to tell these stories. North Korea just happens to be one of the worst, but our film festival is here to tell these stories, to inspire dialogue, inspire action, and to really commend the people who come out and courageously tell their stories time after time, even if it rips them apart inside. We just want to be able to give these people the platform to do so. Please, another round of applause for Lucia.